is Frankie Abbruzzino with the Uncensored Report, and I came across an interesting article, and I thought, let's cover that one today. And I wanted to cover it because it's an issue that we're facing throughout Sarasota, Manatee County, Charlotte County, the Suncoast area, and it revolves around the stuff you see on the screen, opioids, and the death crisis from it, and the undisclosed death crisis that's out there. And it was interesting that what came out of this article, and it elaborated on the opiate crisis, and that it's no secret out there that thousands of people are dying from prescription painkillers. And then right now in Florida, I know the major issue is that we instituted some new laws, statutes a couple years ago, which drove up the price of the pill to what, $80 or whatever it is on the street. So it's cheaper to go heroin, and now you got fentanyl and heroin, which is causing that overdose, and we know all about that stuff. But as a lot more awareness comes out there about this epidemic, we're finding out there's other hazards out there with this drug, which include a higher number of deaths related to overdosing on opioids than what is being reported. There was a report by CBS that went out, and it touched on opioids and how they're factored into, how they should be factored into the deaths caused by infections like pneumonia. And they talked to this lady from the CDC, and field officer Victoria Hall, and she went in. She talked about the different opioids out there, hydrocodone, oxycodone, morphine, all that stuff, and how they cause respiratory complications. And the fact that basically she said, look, opioids are therapeutic or higher than therapeutic levels can impact your immune system. They may make and can make your immune system less effective in fighting illnesses, which I never really thought about, but it kind of makes sense. And what they did is they found in a recent analysis that individuals die of infections worsened via opiate abuse. And that causes of death on the certificate are infection versus the drug. They don't list that. This article went through a few examples, and one of them is a guy in Minnesota who was a major abuser of opioids. He got started on them when his back was bad and all that stuff. He eventually died. He was a long-term opiate abuser, and again, dude started with the back pain. When he went in and he died, they put on, basically they said, look, this guy's cause of death was the flu. And what they did is they went in and looked at the records a little bit further, and they found that he had a very toxic level of opioids in his system. And the death certificate listed just pneumonia. It didn't list anything about pneumonia brought on possibly by the opioid addiction. So the bottom line in this article was just touching on how opioids are killing a lot more people, and it's being underreported because it's being reported something like pneumonia. And it was interesting. They went on, they did a study of some cases, and it listed the cause of death. And 54% of the unexplained drug-related cases, the researchers found 54% of them were listed as pneumonia when they should have been listed as opioid-related, brought on, however you want to say it. The CDC and the CBS analysis were even further confirmed when they had this guy, Dr. Robert Glatter. He's an emergency room doctor up in New York at Lenox Hill Hospital. He said that they see a fair number of patients who use opioids. And in those patients, they see, generally speaking, there's a higher risk profile for developing pneumonia and respiratory illness. So the extent of the opioid addiction and problem continues to come further and further to light as we see and as we start to study it more and look at the different stuff that's out there. And this is just another sequence, if you will, and the reason not to use opioids as if you need it anymore. But I just thought it was very interesting, the fact that a lot of these cases, are being reported as pneumonia or some kind of respiratory illness, when in fact it's brought on through the opioids, which are impacting your immune system. Food for thought. This has been Frankie Abbruzzino with the Uncensored Report.